Hello everybody and welcome back to Reading with Grandma. We're going to work on our book Ghostville Elementary. We'll read another 3 or 4 chapters. I hope you all enjoyed the first three chapters of the book. It sounds pretty good so far. So let's get back into it with chapter 4, the Blackburn Estate. Now we finished off with Jeff and Cassidy were busy daydreaming and they saw a sign, and Nina said, "It can't be." So we're going to find out what it can't be. The Blackburn Estate. A freshly painted sign had been pounded into the dirt at the end of the long driveway that led to the old Blackburn estate. "Sale. Everything must go. Today only," Nina read aloud. "I didn't know anything was left in that old place," Cassidy said. "No one has lived here since before we were born." "No one would dare live there now," Jeff said. "At least not according to that old legend." "What legend?" Nina asked. Jeff shrugged. It's just an old story about how all the people who ever lived there disappeared." Sounds like a haunted house. "Disappeared?" Nina asked, her voice shaking. "People moved in," Jeff said, "and then they were never seen or heard from again. They just vanished." When he snapped his fingers, Nina flinched. "That's just a silly story," Cassidy said. "Whatever they're selling, it has to be ancient," Jeff said. "You're right," Cassidy exclaimed. She slapped Jeff on the back so hard he had to jump forward to catch his balance. "We have to go to this sale." "Are you nuts?" Jeff asked. "Why would you want musty old junk from the Blackburn estate?" "I don't want anything for me," Cassidy told them, "but since our classroom is decorated to look more than 100 years old, there might be some old stuff at our estate we could use." "Great idea," Nina said. "We don't have time to go on a shopping spree," Jeff argued. "We have to practice for the play tryouts. Cassidy patted Jeff on the back again. "You just had another good idea," Cassidy said. "We can find props for our play, too." The girls grabbed Jeff's elbows and pulled him up toward the driveway. "You won't regret this," Cassidy told him. "I hope you're right," Jeff said, "or you'll be sorry." The Blackburn estate stood at the end of an old line. The Blackburn estate stood at the end of an old tree-lined gravel drive. Long shadows darkened the way as Nina's, Cassidy's, and Jeff's sneakers crunched the gravel. The Blackburn estate sprawled out like a giant spider's legs. Many windows were boarded over, and loose tiles from the roof flapped in the wind. A tree limb scraped the house, sounding like giant fingernails on a chalkboard. Jeff grinned. "It looks like a set from one of my favorite monster movies," he told his friends. "I wish our class play was about scary monsters instead of boring history." Nina stopped him, not wanting to go any further. "I'm not going to any place that looks like a haunted house from a horror movie," she said. "What if the stories are true and we never come back out?" "Don't worry," Cassidy said, putting her arm around Nina's shoulders. "We face ghosts every day when we're at school. This will be a piece of cake." The kids climbed up the crumbling steps and made their way across the squeaking boards of the porch. The door stood open, so the kids stepped inside. The inside of the mansion was just as spooky as the outside. Portraits of people dressed in clothes from long ago hung on the walls. "It feels like they're watching us," Nina whispered. Jeff and Cassidy looked at the old paintings. Sure enough, when Jeff stepped to the right, the eyes in the portrait seemed to follow him. "It's just the way they're painted," Jeff told her, but he didn't sound very sure. "May I help you?" Jeff, Cassidy, and Nina jumped at the sound of the voice. In the dimly lit hallway stood a tall woman dressed entirely in gray, from the tips of her pointy shoes to the top of her high-neck sweater. Even her tightly pulled-back hair was gray. "My name is Thelma B. Hawkins. I am the caretaker of this residence," the woman told them. "We saw the sign," Cassidy said bravely. "We thought we could find things for our school." School? Miss Hawkins asked. What would a modern-day school want with antiques such as these? When the three kids explained how they had decorated their classroom to look like a school from long ago, Mrs. Hawkins' eyes seemed to sparkle. That's not all, Jeff said. We're putting on a play and we need props to show what life was like in the 1800s. For the first time they had seen her, Mrs. Hawkins smiled. What a wonderful idea, she said. Your school sounds like the perfect place for some of my more unusual pieces. Mrs. Hawkins guided the three kids into the parlor. Her shoes echoed across the hardwood floors. The room was filled with furniture, rugs, and pictures. But what Nina, Cassidy, and Jeff really liked were the old musical instruments hanging on the walls. As soon as Mrs. Hawkins noticed how interested they were in the old fiddle, she gently removed it from the wall where it hung. Yes, she said, I believe this would be perfect for your play. After all, fiddles were used to entertain the pioneers. Please take it. We could never afford something like this, Nina said politely. Mrs. Hawkins nodded. To be sure, this is an unusual piece, but I dare not let just anybody take it. It needs a special home where it shall be, we say, truly appreciated. Your classroom sounds like just the place, so please take it as a gift from me. For free? Jeff asked. Mrs. Hawkins smiled and nodded. For free, she said. There is one condition, however. You must take this dish and keep it near the fiddle. Seems like such a silly thing, but the two belong together. Cassidy took the tiny plate Mrs. Hawkins held out. There was nothing special about it except for a small chip along the edge. Still, the plate felt cold in her hands, and Cassidy wanted to give it back. We'll be sure to keep them together, Nina said before Cassidy could argue. We really shouldn't accept such expensive things, Cassidy said. It is too late, Mrs. Hawkins said as she ushered the kids down the hall and out the front door. These already belong to you. I have a feeling you three will soon understand their true value. And with that, Mrs. Hawkins closed the front door to the Blackburn estate. When Cassidy paused to look up in the old mansion, a gust of wind blew in her face and ran across the strings of the fiddle in Jeff's hands. 3 strange-sounding notes sent shivers down Cassidy's spine. Something is wrong, Cassidy told her friends. Very wrong. Let's get out of here. Chapter 5. Music. This is spectacular, Mr. Morton said the next day at school. He held up the fiddle to admire. We got it from the old Blackburn mansion, Nina told him. They were having a huge clearance sale, Jeff finished for her, and I bet we could have gotten a lot more free stuff if Cassidy hadn't wanted to leave so quickly. Cassidy shivered. Something about that fiddle and the little china plate gave her the creeps. She wished they had never gone inside the Blackburn mansion. She wondered if she could sneak the fiddle and plate back there without getting caught. The fiddle didn't seem to bother Mr. Morton at all. In fact, he put it up on the plate on the top shelf of the room. Now let's get busy practicing our multiplication tables. We're all the way up to the 6s. Andrew groaned, but Cassidy kept her eyes on the fiddle. Finally, she had to look away to start copying math problems from the chalkboard. She was trying to remember 6 times 7 when she first heard the strange sound. 3 musical notes filled the air and stayed there for a long time. Immediately, Cassidy looked up at the fiddle, but it was completely still. Cassidy struggled and wrote the number 43 on her paper. She shook her head and erased the 3 to make it 42. The sound came again, and Cassidy snapped her head up. The fiddle still sat on the top shelf. Nobody could reach it, and everyone was seated at their desks. "Nina," Cassidy whispered, "did you hear that?" Nina lifted her head and nodded. It must be the orchestra practicing upstairs. Cassidy breathed a sigh of relief. Nina was probably right. "Okay," Cassidy said to herself. "What's 6 times 8? She lifted her pencil to write the answer when suddenly music filled the air. It wasn't from the orchestra upstairs. It was definitely coming from inside the classroom, and it was definitely fiddle music. Cassidy checked behind Nina. Maybe Andrew had sneaked in a set of headphones and was playing a trick on her. But Andrew wasn't wearing headphones. He was busy flicking spitballs at Carla and Darla. Several kids did have their heads up, though, as if they heard the music too. Even Mr. Morton was tapping his foot underneath the desk. Phew! Cassidy breathed a sigh of relief. For a minute she thought she was going crazy. All morning long the kids heard the strange haunting sound of a single fiddle. Finally, when it was time for gym class, the music stopped. "Thank goodness that music was driving me crazy," Nina said to her friends. They were standing at the back of the line. "I liked the music," Jeff said. "It made the time go faster. Now we can have some fun in gym." Nina grinned. She loved anything to do with sports. "Wait a minute," Cassidy said as the rest of the class filled out the door. "I have to show you something." Chapter 6, Tryouts. The three kids stared at a shadow near the front of the room. It glittered and glowed for a minute before disappearing completely. "Did you see that?" Cassidy gasped. Jeff shrugged. "That's just Ozzy, Becky, Sadie, or Nate." "Or Edgar," Nina added. "I don't think it's one of our ghosts, and Edgar is too busy writing ghost stories," Cassidy said, pointing to the picture hanging in the back of the room. The kids knew that Edgar preferred to sit under a tree in the picture and write in his journal. Sure enough, he was there. "And the rest of the ghosts would pop up right up to scare us," she added with a shiver. "What else could it be?" Nina asked. Cassidy shook her head. "I don't know, but I don't like it." "I don't like being late for gym," Jeff said. "Let's go." Cassidy wondered about the shadow all during the volleyball game and later during free reading and spelling time. Jeff, on the other hand, didn't give the strange shadow a second thought. His mind was centered on the play tryouts this afternoon. His stomach felt queasy just thinking about them. He really wanted to get the main part. He kept saying his lines over and over in his mind. Finally, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Mr. Morton cleared his throat. "Okay, everybody," he announced, "it's time for the play auditions." A few kids groaned, but most people cheered. Carla and Darla clapped their hands. Everyone put away their spelling worksheets and took out their copy of the book the class was reading together. "Remember, each part is important," Mr. Morton told the class, "and we will need everyone's help to make the set and decorations for the play. Now, let's see who is interested in playing Travis," Mr. Morton asked. Jeff, Andrew, and Cassidy raised their hands in the air. Andrew glared at Cassidy. "Travis is a boy," he told her. Cassidy held her head high. "A true actress can perform any part," she said. Jeff looked at Andrew. "I figured you didn't like plays," Jeff said. Andrew shrugged. I thought I'd give it a try." Andrew went first, and Jeff had to admit that Andrew was pretty good. Cassidy went next and read her part out loud. Jeff sank down to the seat. Cassidy was really good too. When Mr. Morton called his name, Jeff walked slowly to the front of the room. Jeff turned his book to page 6 and opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Jeff stood frozen by the floor this time, like time had stopped. "What's wrong with Jeff?" Nina whispered to Cassidy. Slowly, Cassidy turned to see what Jeff was looking at. "Jeepers creepers," Cassidy agreed. So that's where we're going to leave it today to get you more interested in coming back next week for the next chapter to see what it was that Jeff was staring at. So I hope you guys are enjoying Ghostville Elementary. Let me know in the comments below if you like this book, if you like to have any more of these types of books, the little chapter books, or whatever book you'd like. Leave it in the comments below, and if I don't have it, I will get it and I will read it to everybody. So enjoy. Please like and subscribe. Ring the bell so you know when I'm reading again, and everybody stay safe. Bye now.